Today, Anton Rain has been elected president. The people have spoken. Our country has had a rough past, riddled with coups, civil wars, and shifting ideologies. Today, we embark on a new era for the country, a time of hope and change.
Tropico asks you to hold on to power. Suzerain asks something a lot harder. It asks what you do with power once you actually have it, legitimately, after the bad guy is already gone. This is President Anton Rain. He just inherited a country that spent decades under the authoritarian rule. The institutions are damaged. His allies all want different things. And he has one term to figure out what kind of leader he's going to be. There's no sandbox here, no system to poke in isolation. You just play, and every choice is a real one. Okay, watch who's in the room. Every advisor represents different factions. Economic reformers, hardliners, progressive, loyalists, who knows? Anton isn't going to be able to govern everyone. But they don't agree, and unlike Tropico, you can't build something to satisfy them. You actually have to talk to them and persuade them, make deals. This is coalition politics, not the textbook definition, the actual experience of it. There's research on what's called political play. The idea that games can simulate civic competencies not by explaining them, but by making players perform them. Neys and Jansz describe this as engagement through enactment rather than instruction. Suzerain is a clean example of that. You're not reading about coalition politics, you're actually doing it, and the game holds you accountable for every deal you make. Every alliance costs something. Move toward one advisor, and you move away from the other. Every deal has a price you may not see until much later. And unlike a strategy game where there's mechanical pressure, here it feels personal because these are people with names who remember what you said to them 3 conversations ago. Here it is, the constitutional question. This one needs a moment to sit with. The Constitution isn't just a document, it's a set of rules that everyone agrees to follow even when they benefit from breaking them. That shared agreement is what political scientists call legitimacy, the belief that the system has the right to govern, independent of whether you like the current outcome. Courts work on how narrative games embed political arguments through their systems rather than their dialogue is useful here. The constitutional reform mechanic in Suzerain isn't just a story beat. It's an argument about who gets to set the terms of government and what that means for everything that follows. The game is making a procedural claim that constitution moments are power moments, and that whoever shapes the rules shapes the future. Anton is being asked to do exactly that, and Suzerain makes you feel the weight of it without ever explaining it explicitly. This is the one.
The inaugural ball, Anton's first night as president, and this happens. A poor, popular communist poet and author was shot dead at the inaugural ball by members of the Young Swords. And immediately before Anton had the time to process what just happened, the political calculus starts. Okay, I need to stop here because this is the moment the game earns everything. Look at these options. You can go after the young swords who actually pulled the trigger. You can go after the red youth, the political opposition who provoked it, or you can just protect free speech, which in practice means protecting people who just shot someone at your inauguration. None of these are clean, and that's the point. This is what political scientists call an attribution of blame problem under crisis conditions. Something violent happened, multiple actors had a hand in it, the public wants a response, and whoever Anton punishes first tells everyone watching, his allies, his enemies, the press, the international community, what kind of president he is and whose side he's on. Go after the young swords and you look principled, but you just made enemies with a nationalist faction. You might need later. Go after the red youth, and you just used a political assassination as cover to suppress the left, which is exactly what authoritarian leaders do. And Anton came to office promising he wasn't one. Do nothing, and you've signaled on your first night that violence has no consequences as long as politically complicated enough. There is no right answer here. There's just what you choose and what it costs. And I actually went with the free speech part because this is an extremely difficult decision in all reality. And I thought the best way was to appease as many people as possible was to go that route. What matters isn't whether it was actually a right call. In reality, it probably be more politically logical to go after the young swords. But what matters is that 5 minutes into this presidency, Anton Reign has already made a decision that will define how people see him. Not in a speech, not in a policy announcement, in a crisis, at a party with the body still on the floor. That's Suzerain doing something most political games never attempt. It doesn't give you time to be thoughtful. It gives you exactly as much time as a real leader would have and then holds you to it.
Dishon and Kafai make the case that civic learning doesn't require games designed explicitly for a civic education. It requires games that embed players in systemic consequence and make those consequences feel real. Suzerain is built almost entirely around that principle. The civic learning here isn't incidental, it's structural. The game is designed to make you care about outcomes that mirror real political stakes. This is the thread that connects Suzerain most directly to what's happening in the real world right now. Democratic backsliding. The gradual erosion of democratic norms rarely looks like a coup. It looks like this: a leader who came to power legitimately faced a situation where the rules felt inconvenient, surrounded by people telling him that just this once, it's okay to bend them. The institution doesn't collapse in a day, it gets hollowed out slowly. The judiciary loses independence here, the press gets pressured there. Elections stay on the calendar, but the outcome becomes less certain. And at some point, you look up and the democracy is technically still standing, but there's nothing left inside of it. What Suzerain models specifically is the rationalization process, the internal logic by which a leader convinces each compromise is necessary. That's not a character flaw unique to Anton Reign. That's literally how institutional erosion works in practice. One reasonable exception at a time, and the game makes you the one doing the rationalizing, and that's uncomfortable in exactly the right way. Remember the election mechanic in Tropico? Legitimate and corrupt options sitting in the same menu, same font, same layout. Suzerain is showing you the inside of that menu, the part that Tropico doesn't render because Tropico operates at the level of system. Here, you're in the actual conversation where the decision gets made. You can feel the rationalization happening in real time. This is what Mida means by civic media literacy, the capacity to read the political logic embedded in media rather than just consuming it. Tropico makes that logic visible through satire. Suzerain makes it visible through emotional weight. Both are doing the exact same thing, the design patterns are different, but the civic work is identical. Suzerain doesn't have a propaganda bill. It doesn't have an election rigging button, but is modeling the same underlying problem as Tropico, just from the inside. Tropico shows you the levers. Suzerain shows you the person pulling them in the moment they decide to pull. Constitutional reform, coalition politics, democratic backsliding, none of those are abstract in this game. They're Tuesday. They're a conversation with your finance minister. They're a call you make when you're tired, and the easier path is right there. That's what makes it one of the most political, honest games ever made. Not because it teaches you the facts about democracy, because it teaches you how democracy feels to govern from the inside. Next, we leave the office entirely. Just Cause 3 puts you under the system instead of inside of it and asks you what the violence of resistance actually costs.